live video is starting. There. Okay. We're live on Facebook.
Awesome. How are you guys today? We've got an awesome show today. We've got Arla and Michael are back. And we've got Sam Chandler
The
with us
immortal Sam
today.
Chandler. That's how
You
he's.
know, I should be in the middle on my screen and Michael's in the middle. Uh,
Oh, really?
but being surrounded by these two, I mean, the world's most handsomest man and the immortal Sam Chandler. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Yeah.
This is going to be a good show today, and I'm sure we'll have fun, and I know there'll be a lot of information.
He's sitting on his crown of immort. He's sitting on a throne of immortality. That's what it is. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm saving people from looking in my garage at my shelves and bikes. So,
Well,
I mean, I gotta be professional, you know. People take me
you've
serious.
been making the rounds. You're a co-host on the Being Human Now, and you're a special guest on a Pork and Pappy show, and I think there's a few more out there, didn't you, that you did?
Yeah, yeah, I've been trying to get out there more. It's been urged, not urged. That's not the right word I want to use.
Urged.
Yeah, I've just been like kind of guided to speak more right now because it's important what's going on. So it's an important time to speak about this stuff and things. So
I think so. This is a paradigm shift, and these paradigm shifts take a lot of nudging,
yes,
and reconfirming and reformatting. So a lot of things that we thought we knew we didn't have a clue. That's it.
right.
That's the statement for the day. A lot of things we knew, we didn't have a clue.
and that's the truth. I know, I've been going through some things, and I've been doing or they've been doing a life review.
Mm,
I'm 75 years old, and they're evidently I had questions about my whole life and why some things happened the way they did. And it's like they bring this thought to me about something, and that can happen anyway. It can be triggered by something someone says, something I read. Today I had a trigger by song, and it brought something back to me. And it was something that in the past I thought about, why did this happen? Well, it happened because. And the truth of the matter was, what they showed me, this had to happen. It wasn't what I thought I wanted to happen in the way I thought I wanted it to happen, but it happened. And it actually helped me do some of the things that I've done since that time. Because if I had made the other decision, my life definitely wouldn't be what it is today. And so, a lot of those things were questions about, and you ask yourself, everybody does, why did I do that? Why did I make that decision? And, and I can say, well, it brought me to who I am today. But it's deeper than
yeah,
that.
right.
And knowing what it is in that moment, it soothed my soul, basically.
Yeah.
That had to happen in that way. It was the easiest way for that to happen, even though it was somewhat traumatic. And it just every time they've been doing that and bringing the whys to me, I just get this big smile on my heart, and tell them thank you for letting me see that about myself. I was told recently in a Zoom group that I'm part of that my belief system was in for some interesting changes. And I thought, oh boy, here we go again. And it has already began, but and I'm up for it.
Yeah, right.
Whatever they're going to bring me, I know they're going to walk with me through it, and it's where I need to be. And I guess we all go through that. I know we question ourselves a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, every time I listen to you guys, I just like I need to get like a notepad and write down stuff to touch on because I get so like wrapped up in it. Yeah. So I was talking to my wife about this the other night. Like everyone in the world right now, not is going through something big, right? And some places and some people are going through things that are like really big and life changing. Some things are devastating. And I touched on this the last time. But a lot of these things are happening to give us an opportunity to open our hearts, or it's taking us out of our comfort zone and putting us in a position that's giving us an opportunity. Because again, free will is really paramount in a lot of this stuff. So you can make the choice to stay, where you are and be like angry and mad about the way things happen the way they did. But it's more beneficial if you can try to find the good that came out of the situation. So when I was talking to my wife the other night, I was like, because the way that I look at it, if somebody were to come up to me, 20, when was that? 28 something years ago, whenever I got stabbed, it's 20 years ago last year. So if someone had come up to me right before that and said like, hey, look, you're going to get stabbed in the face. You're going to lose an eye. You're going to spend, 2 weeks in the hospital, and it's going to be pretty brutal. You're going to have to learn how to like walk again without getting sick, and all these things. But you're going to get like a whole new perspective on life. You're going to open up, like your spiritual stuff's going to open up, and you're going to lose a physical eye, but you're going to gain a spiritual eye. It's going to change your life completely. I
Oh,
would say,
that's a cool thing.
right. I would say, no, I'm good. I'll stay exactly where I am. I'm pretty comfortable where I am. But being that it was forced on me, whether that was predetermined when I came here or not, that's yet to be seen. I tend to lean that it was. But yeah, if that hadn't happened, like I'm so thankful for it. And that might sound weird to some people. But had that not happened, I honestly believe I would have been in prison or dead. So yeah, these things, we just go through changes, and sometimes it's necessary, and you just have to be okay with that. Because
Yeah,
the
that's
resistance
amazing.
to it, is what causes the struggle and the strife, right? You're like fighting the current where it's trying to take you, and the struggle against it is what's bringing you the suffering in it. So if you can extrapolate good from it, because there's good to be found in almost every situation.
There is.
Yeah, it's just up to us to find it.
Well, that's a key understanding that everything, like I was just thought about this today. It's like I saw something about happiness, what you got to do to be happy or something like that. And I was thinking, well, we're always happy. We are always happy, and we're always depressed, and we're always excited, and we're always, discouraged. We're
Right.
always everything all the time. But the real secret is to pull up out from within you what it is that you want. Like if you want happiness, you just got to pull it up because it's there. It's part of you. It's part
Right.
of what the universe is all about. So that's such a simple thing, but it's profound because people can spend literally 30 years or 40 years being depressed and being
Yeah.
whatever and never just reach inside and pull up peace of mind or joy or gratitude.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we're not taught that, right?
We're
That's
not
not
taught
something
that
we're taught
that's
in
on the
school.
table. We're taught that something has to happen out there to
Yeah.
trigger gratitude. Oh, you get a candy bar, so you're grateful.
Right. Right. Or a nice car, or a beautiful trophy spouse, or whatever. Yeah, like that'll bring you happiness. But it might temporarily, right? But it's never long lasting.
Yeah, but what what really brought this home to me was my son was and I were at this kind of it was a San Pedro party. It was actually pretty sophisticated. We had like drummers and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, he was in the kitchen and it was like this, San Pedro is like something that lasts. It's like peyote, it lasts for hours. So he was in the kitchen and he was laughing and then he would stop laughing and then he was laughing and then he stopped laughing. And I walked in there, and I asked him, I said, what are you doing? He said, well, and he said, I'm trying to find out where the laughter goes when you stop laughing. You know what I'm saying? And it's like what a question that is. Where does it go? Where does joy go? Where does gratitude go when you're not no longer, well, it doesn't really go anywhere. It's just we can pull it up at any time. And it doesn't have to
Yeah.
finish. It can be repeated over and over again.
Right. That is an interesting question. Yeah.
And that's choices,
Choice.
Yeah.
choices again. And we make them many, many times a day. We make a choice about something. And, I find myself when something comes that doesn't feel good, whatever it is that's happened, a situation or whatever, I try to send love to it, but send love to myself because of my reaction to it. And then I'm allowed to make the choice to know that that is going to be exactly how it should be. And I don't want to change that situation. It's not for me to change it. It is for me to send it peace and love and to love myself and then to just accept what's going on. Sometimes I don't accept it very good. I
Right.
can't tell you,
Right.
but it yeah, and that's so important, for all of us, and especially now. Oh my goodness. There's so much stirring around. It's like there's this giant whirlpool, and you've got all these people standing around it, and they've got these giant sticks, and they're
Right.
just stirring and stirring and
Yeah.
stirring and stirring.
Yeah.
And we can fall into that and be stirred right along with all of that.
Right.
I'm
And I
stirred.
choose, yep, I choose not to be stirred up because
Yep.
it's not good when Arla is stirred
Right.
up.
But that's hard, right?
Yeah,
That
it
that
is.
that cauldron of energy that's going on right now.
Yep.
But they're doing it on purpose. That's the tactic. And it's hard to not get caught up in it. I get caught up in it, so I've been working on myself for 20 years now, and I get triggered. Sometimes I got triggered last week by something. I mean, we all have our own triggers, right? It's just certain things. Um, so this is going to be this whole process that we're going through right now, this paradigm shift. It's going to be difficult for everyone. I don't care who you are. The only way that it's not going to be, well, I think the only people that aren't really going to have a problem are like the renunciates or the people that have completely removed themselves from the world and might live in a cave in the Himalayas, like that don't really have any connection with the outside world. So they're doing their inner journey stuff. So if you have any connection with the outside world right now, you're feeling it. And I say that because I don't want people to get caught up in like, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or I'm getting pulled down or dragged down into anger, because what I say that, and this is something I was told to extrapolate on, is the love thing, the love it teaching that I was given. It's fundamental, right? Love everything, but there's a caveat to that, and that doesn't mean be a pushover. It doesn't mean let people trample on you. It doesn't mean let people be mean to you, take advantage of you, and like be okay with it. It doesn't mean to sit there and watch other people get hurt and be okay with it and just say it's okay. I love you. You'll get better. You have to set you set boundaries for yourself. You protect yourself, and you speak up when you see injustices and anything that you isn't, not opinions, not things like I don't like the way so and so did something, but if someone is genuinely being hurt or forced on mentally, physically, or spiritually, then definitely say something, but do it from a loving place. Like, don't do it from hatred or vitriol. Don't hate the person that's doing it, because you have to remember that it's the character that's doing it. It's not the actor. The actor is the soul, right? It's the soul. You have to look at it from the soul perspective. So love the soul, and you can be angry at the actor or the character, sorry, like, and what the character's doing, right?
Yeah.
Don't carry the hatred in you towards that person, which is hard. Again, like, to not, because like I said, I got triggered last week by something somebody did, and I was like, ooh, and that goes back to what you were talking about, being like reactive and proactive, right? And how we react to the situation. And tricky times. That cauldron is a stirring.
Yeah. And it's that thing that I call myself. I'm a respectful rebel. I very much have a rebellious nature in
Same.
me that
Yep.
maybe a lot of people don't realize that it's there. But whatever I see, I have to be respectful of myself in how I address that situation.
Right.
And that's somewhat what Sam is saying. If your heart's open, there are things that are going to break your heart. That's just all there is to it with what's going on in the world. And if you get into that place of taking on the same energy that you're not liking, then all you've done is took that particular energy and magnified it.
Right.
You sent that out, and the situation has sent that out, and we can't do that. We have to just keep ourselves in a respectful place. And I'm not about to be disrespectful to anyone. It's what I was taught. It's what I believe. It's part of me, and I won't ever speak disrespectful. Now, I will speak what's in my mind and in my heart, but I will try to do it in the most loving way I can. And I don't always hit that mark. I don't. I'm still learning too. And for me, it's that learning that gives me so much joy. Every step that's taken, everything that I learn and I understand brings me a joy.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's the the respectful, yeah, because I didn't think that this was going to be an easy journey, but I also didn't expect for it to like to get me like this transitional period we're in right now in the United States. Uh, I thought I was prepared, but man, uh, it's just like everything in life, right? There's just something that's thrown out of left field you weren't expecting, right? And that's just the universe's way of testing you, testing your resolve, you know, and seeing um, like, oh, you think you're ready for this? Here, let me hand you this, you know, and uh, that's where healing's really important because well, healing and triggers, right? So if you have been doing the work, the inner work on yourself, the triggers don't really affect you as much because I know for a fact if I had 20 years ago, if what had happened last week happened to me 20 years ago, I would have lost it. I would have been furious. Um, and I could feel that fire inside when I saw it. But the healing and getting to know myself let me recognize that, right? Like I could see it, wasn't reactive to it, and I got to sit down and just feel that and like from a from someone who was watching it happen to my body, if that makes any sense. Instead of being in it, I was watching it happen. And um, that's going to be really important moving forward, especially because they're going to try to keep us. And when I say they, I'm talking about powers that be, powers that were. That's a vague statement, right? I guess we should probably dive into some of that stuff, like who's actually like pulling the strings on all the puppets during this whole thing. But um, like the whole notion right now is like the going back to the cauldron reference is to keep all this negative, angry energy swirling. And while that's going on and we're being distracted by that, they're going to be doing things behind the scenes, right? Keeping us preoccupied in this state of anger and like outrage. And then they're going to be doing other things and we might find out about them later. But um, getting caught up in that is and knowing that it's happening is really important during all this because the old paradigm, we're shifting into a whole new paradigm. The whole new paradigm has to be created because it's going to be totally different. And so in order to create a new paradigm, we have to do it from scratch, right? We can't use it building stuff from the old paradigm. And they're doing this stuff to keep us trapped in the old paradigm. So all of it's just kind of like constantly being thrown in our face. And that's part of the strategy. And it sounds like a conspiracy theory. I totally understand that. And you can think that. That's totally fine if you want to. I'm just going with what my guidance has been and what I've been shown and told and where I feel it in my heart. Like uh, this movement from a fear-based paradigm to a love-based paradigm is kind of unwrapping as like a mirror. I was shown this rather recently. So if you could think of like the old paradigm that we've been living in, and then this is the new one's coming in like a mirror perspective, right? But it's like this one was fear, this one's love. And we had never had this on the earth plane before. At least any like maybe a really long time ago in linear on a linear scale. But in order to do this, what we do is we're going to be given the same experiences again and again and again and again. But instead of using the old paradigm, it's going to be a new one. So the new paradigm is the same experiences, but with a different dimension laid over them of love. And so we're going to be made to, not made to, that's not the word I want to use. We're going to be given the opportunity to correct the the past mistakes with a new perspective of love, right? So we're going to be um, learning as we go, right? But it's not gonna be such a big leap that it's gonna be like, what do we do? What do we do? It's gonna be this is the first time in human history that, as far as I've been told, that we have the ability to look back and see the patterns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because with like the internet and modern technology and everything like that, we've been taught through history. We can see the patterns that are happening right now and look back in the past and see it happen this in this era, it happened to this era, it happened to this era. And there's so much history repeating itself because that old paradigm is worn its storyline out, right? It's like, and I was on Being Human Now a couple weeks ago, and Jennifer mentioned something about, well, can we stop remaking the same movies over and over again, right? And we joked because it was like a funny thing, but it's true. I mean, the the storyline has been played out, and that whole old paradigm is done. It's like, yeah, we've seen the story before, we know exactly where it's going to go. Um, and like, kind of like how anxiety is, you you experience something and then your mind creates a scenario that could happen based on things that have happened to you before in your life, right? And so we usually jump to the worst case scenario and creates this anxiety. So right now we're in a situation that's happened many times before. And when I say this situation I'm referring to right now is like a localized United States situation with our political stuff that's going on. This has happened many times before in the past in different countries and different eras. And we can create the anxiety of, I know where this is going, I've seen this before, it's going to end terrible. Or we can shift it in the mirror perspective of love and say, like, we know what could happen. Let's not let that happen. And let's right our wrong, right, and get a second chance at this. And then that's going to be the way that we move forward from that point on. It's not going to be letting fear win. It's going to be letting love win. And then we choose from love. And I touched on this the other show too, with Jennifer, was like the feminine right now, the divine feminine is being called up. That divine feminine energy that's been subdued for so long is being called to like really step up right now. And I don't mean just women. What I'm saying is like the feminine energy in general, right? Women encompass it a lot more. So there is going to be a call for women to step up and really like because going back to the fire inside, I know there's a fire inside right now, right? But we have to use that anger constructively. And that call is to come out and women, children are going to be so important moving forward. Because you know, like we talked about indigo children when I was younger, right? And then we had the crystal wave, and then we had rainbow wave children, and all the children that are coming in right now are they're here for this. They're here for this new paradigm that we're making. So I like using the Hindu terminology when I explain this part of it because it's easier for me, right? Because there's not really anything in the English language that I'm aware of that can present this story in a way that is kind of understandable. So, going back to like Shiva and Shakti, and depending on like what branch of Hinduism you follow, there's like Shiva, Vishnu, Ram, Brahman, is creator, right? He's like the all powerful creator. It's like everything. What we would probably call God, I guess. And he is the creator. He's everything, but he cannot create without Shiva. So or without Shakti, sorry. He needs her creative energy to birth everything into creation. So he is creator and she is creation, and they have to work together. It's like yin and yang, right? It's the masculine and feminine aspects of the universe in order to create. And what's happened is the powers that be used to be have kind of tried to stifle the Shakti in the world. And so it's just been patriarchal, you know, man controlled, masculine. And that's stifled the creativity of everything. Going back to the old paradigms, stories just repeating themselves over and over and over again. The creativity's gone. It's just the same crap, right? And so in order to create like the new, that feminine energy, that Shakti's being asked to come up and take its place back, with the children that have come in, because they're children on a human ideal, but they're old souls, you know, they're old star seeds. They're just coming in right now in the bodies of these little humans. Man, they are powerful and full of wisdom, and we just have to listen to them. And there's going to be a lot right now. That cauldron stirring is trying to stifle it again, right? We're seeing political and church stuff trying to stifle it. But another, going back to the Hindu thing one more time, is the concept of Maya and Leela. So Leela is Brahman or Shiva playing out, doing a play, trying to learn itself, have fun with itself, right? So Leela is basically creation, and that is the play that's being created by God or whatever, just to kind of like have fun with itself and learn itself and get to know itself a little bit better. And um, Maya is like the illusion of it all, and being a character versus being an actor. So if you can think of it as being on a stage with a bunch of actors, Leela is behind the curtain. It's all the actors, and they're all, having fun, and just knowing that they're about to do a production on a stage, and it's going to be like, that's going to be a separate thing, but they know that they're not the character. They know they're an actor playing a character. Maya is being the character. And if you step onto the stage and you completely get enwrapped, like, you're just enthralled and fully enveloped in your character, and you forget that you're an actor, you forget your soul, your spiritual connection. That's Maya. So what we're doing is slowly stepping out of Maya back into Leela, and awakening to our true nature. And in the process of that, all the way showers and light workers and everybody that's here on the planet to help assist with this new paradigm shift that we're going through. If you could think of it as like a Broadway production, okay, we'll just use that as like an analogy. And so to say there's like this play that's been going on forever, and it was like the best play ever. Everyone loved it. It was all everyone talked about. There was lines down the block to see it. But after a while, it got stagnant and boring, and people stopped coming to see the show. But the star actors of the show they were living high on the hog forever, right? And then when the attendance started dropping and people were like, this is getting kind of boring, they were told that we're going to come on stage, clear it out, we're starting something new. And those actors, those star actors, they're not going to let that go lightly, right? So that's the powers that were. They understand that we're changing, but they're not going to let it go. They're going to do whatever they can, try and stop that from happening. And so light workers and way showers and stuff are basically stage hands right now, and we're flipping the stage, and we're writing a whole new play, and it's going to be something new. It's going to be something that's like fresh and never happened before. So yeah,
Can I
that's
can
it's
I
a flip of the.
can I
Please, I feel like I've been talking for like an hour, so please interject.
no, you only been talking for 10 minutes. Can I I want to repeat this comment. This guy Nat Shepard, and this is to something you're saying now, but it was just like actually when he first got started. He said in his comedy, he goes, "I want to be spiritually ascended, and I want to punch some people too."
Yeah.
And I think that wraps it up. If as long as you understand the difference between your inside and your outside, and if you get triggered by something on the outside, and you move your anger on the inside of you, then you're going to be able to unlock the trigger. But you
Right.
don't unlock the trigger by sitting on your anger or sitting on your fear. You have to feel it and express
Right.
it within inside you, inside skin in, and then ultra violence is acceptable
Yeah.
on your skin in, and then that's the ultra violence, that rage. That's what you use to kill the demons and the ancestor habits, patterns, and you can go back in history and just lay waste to all those things if you want, because it's inside you, and it always was inside you.
Right. And it's
But
not
anyway, I
being.
like what you're talking about, this Shiva and Shakti, and you know it was Shiva who started the demon wars, interestingly enough,
Yeah.
of which
Well,
Kali, the feminine.
Right. Kali is an aspect
had
of it.
resolved. She's the one who resolved this, the feeling wars, the demon wars, because he created the demons, and the demons attacked the feminine polarity with the feeling polarity.
Right.
And then uh, it was from Durga's, Durgaji, right? Durga's third eye was projected, was the projection of Kali.
Right. And Kali is an aspect of Shakti, right?
I would say
She's
Shakti
the
is an aspect
because
of
Shakti's
Kali.
creation.
Kali
Yeah.
is Kali is
Well,
the universe in time.
right. They're one and the same, but they're the difference creation and then I don't want to say death, but I mean I know that Kali is presented as a goddess of death, but she's a goddess of, if you look at it from like the stage perspective, like Kali is the one that would come up and clean the stage, right? Get rid of everything on the stage. And then Shakti is the creation aspect of that, right? So they work hand in hand, just like yin and yang, kind of in the same. So I know Kali's
to understand Kali, you have to go to back to what something that Rudolf Steiner says. He said antipathy is in the nerve, and sympathy is in the blood, right? So antipathetic and sympathetic. Sympathetic meaning compassion. And so when Kali cuts off the head of the demon, she catches the blood and then she drinks it. So that means it's returning the compassion back to the feminine. It's pretty really
right,
deep stuff. There's also the inner child stuff, because you take the wounds of the inner child and you bring them into yourself. This is really amazing. The Indians got this great mythology, great stories. Anyway,
they do. They do.
You
Yeah, and
know,
I have to reference it a lot.
and
you
they're loaded
guys
with
are,
Sasquatch. I just throw that out there. They're
yeah,
loaded.
Yeah.
you guys are, we've been talking about triggers, and trigger is not a bad thing. To be triggered is a good thing. It says, hey, why am I triggered? Why did this bother you? And once you're triggered, you have the choice to understand why that triggered you. And you can either let it go to where it wasn't a positive thing, or you can take that same trigger and totally go into yourself and understand what it was that triggered you. And when you do that, you transmute all of that from yourself. And the Earth School, which is where we are, this is a school where, and not only souls that have human, like what we are, there are other beings that come to this earth to learn as well. One of the things the star people have told me is there are many places, not just like Earth, but for the same purpose as the Earth Mother. And she's called the Earth Mother because she is the mother and has all these children, whether they're children like us or the other animals, beings, whatever, that are here. And so she helps us to learn. And that's what school's about. School is about learning something. And this is one that helps us learn who we really are. And who we really are is love. And we're getting to that point. I see it closer for so many people now. And something that Kashima had said several years ago, and I said it many times, it's not the quantity of those who are coming, it's the quality of those who are understanding more, and that they're showing that love and compassion and kindness. So it's the quality. And it was interesting. I was watching Jonathan Goldman yesterday, and he said the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the quality of those who are stepping out that can help in this paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And we have been at this precipice before. I don't think at this big of a moment of being there, and what I see in the news, I'll just talk about the news for a second, is so many things coming to light. And I'm not talking about disclosure or any of those type things. I'm just talking about things that are actually done, things that are actually said. If you are open, you will see the light that is being shined on that very action. And
Right.
that's a hard place to be in a political world, is to see things being done and said and go, whoa, well, that was just brought to light.
Right.
So, you know, uh,
Yeah. That's but that's what part of this collective shadow work that we're going through is, right? In order to address it, you have to bring it up. And that goes back to what you were talking about too, about triggers, right? In order to address it, it has to be triggered. So um, that's why one of the reasons that the world feels like so chaotic right now is that all the things that these aren't new things. These aren't things that just started to happen. These are all things that have been underground, so to speak, for this whole time. And now they're just being dug up. I mean, it's like moving out of a house, right? You have all these things that you stashed away in little nooks and crannies throughout your house. And once you start moving everything out, all this stuff just starts. And it's crazy and it's stressful because you're like, where did that come from? And oh, I thought that we got rid of that long ago, but here it is again. Uh, but that's how we address it, right? It's part of that collective macro scale shadow work that we're going through right now. Yeah.
and we need that. We really
Absolutely.
do need that now, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Triggers aren't always fun, but you can make the choice to understand and literally shed light on,
Yep.
what the whole thing was about.
Yeah. Yeah. The man, there's a saying. Eknath Easwaran said it. I can't remember if he was quoting someone or if it was a quote from him, but it was the more light that is shown, the greatest surface area shadow is revealed. Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing it, but
Yeah, the bigger the shadows, that makes sense.
yeah. So yeah, the more surface area of darkness or shadow is revealed, something like that. And it's true. It's we one of the reasons that a lot of this stuff has been able to like occur for so long is because we've been so comfortable. We've been living high on the hog too, man. We've had a great time just being consumers and having everything we can get to our fingertips, and just while we're just happy and they're giving us the little piece of the pie, they're taking and they give us a slice and they take the rest of the pie, and we're like, oh, this is great, look at this pie, this piece of pie we got. And yeah, it's not happening no more. We're taking the pie back. uh, um yeah, yeah. I love this stuff. I don't like getting triggered. I'm not going to say that part's fun. It's not fun, and that's what we've all been avoiding most of our lives, right? We find these ways to escape any kind of pain that we might find, any kind of suffering, or uh, digging up old traumas to work through them. But I don't think the universe is. I don't think Mother or the universe right now is going to be tolerating any kind of like passivism. Like, we're all going to have to get to work on this. So
Well, good and evil, right? Happy and sad. What's the opposite of trauma? Maybe elation would be the opposite of trauma.
yeah, bliss maybe, or
Bliss. I guess like trauma and bliss. Well, they're connected.
right.
So you know, it is the light, it is the darkness that generates the light. So when you talk about trauma, trauma is the most fertile fruit that there is because it it brings light and transformation and nourishment and you could build your house out of it because it's so strong.
Right.
So we need a certain amount of trauma to have. If you can have bliss and no trauma, it becomes fake. You know.
Right. Yeah. That's forged in the flames type scenario.
Yeah.
Or like when you plant, you plant a seed, you don't plant a seed in the light. You plant it in the dark soil of mother, and then it grows from the darkness. So yeah, it's like tree of life, right?
Yeah. And that's this third dimensional world that we live in.
Right.
That's where all of this learning about what is good and what is evil. And I think the thing is people seeing that as we raise our vibrations as humanity, consciousness, their vibrational being of humanity is raised, then we slip out of this third dimension and we don't have good and evil. There we have learned the lesson, understood what the answers were, and understood how to go about doing this. Then those don't exist in that fourth dimension, that door that takes you through the fourth dimension into the fifth. And that's easy to say, but the thing is, in this third dimension, that's what we're dealing with, and this is our learning. I talk to a lot of people who slip into that fourth dimension from time to time. I know some people who I know are fifth dimensional beings. I have no doubt that they are. And seeing that and knowing that that is possible and learning in this third dimension what it is that we need to learn to release these things. And basically, it's learning how to release your reaction to these things, to understand where that reaction is coming from. And that's like the triggers, and that you look at things in a different way. I've heard a lot of people talk lately about in the dream time that they're slipping out
Oh yeah.
of this third dimension
Oh yeah.
and going into the fourth and even into the fifth. That tells me that humanity is ready to do that. And so, what do you have at the end of school? You have this major test to see,
Right.
did you learn all of these things, and are you going to pass this test? And do you know all the answers? Do you understand? And it's slipping into that fourth dimension in dream time or however you go there, and looking back and going, wow, I passed it.
Right.
And then you're right back here, but it's not just about us passing it, it's being tutors, I guess,
Yeah.
for so many others who are wanting to know more and are needing, support. And so that's how, I say all the time, we're seed planters. We're out there planting seeds, but we're also tutors. Everyone that shares an experience that helps someone else is a tutor. They're helping.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Going back to the dream time. For me lately, my gosh, it's like every night. every night, I swear, I'm just like, yeah, the dream work that's been going on lately has just been nonstop. And I told you about this the other day when I became consciously aware in the middle of dream time. This was a few nights ago. I became consciously aware, and I heard Vabion talking, but her voice is so angelic when she speaks. And I came to this point where I saw this like spectrogram, right? And it was like the vision that I was watching was like this vision of a spectrogram, and every time she was talking, it was like moving with her, like how you would watch a spectrogram on a computer monitor or something. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And she was just talking, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is amazing. I can't wait to wake up tomorrow and remember this and just like, write all this down and have this lesson. I woke up the next morning and I remembered everything that happened, but I don't remember anything she said. Like all of that is stored away. It's stored away for safekeeping, but like in my like subconscious mind probably, but my conscious mind is like, there's so what I'm getting at is the dream work that a lot of us are going through right now is like it's like an after school class or an after school program, that there's a lot of things that are being shown and taught that we're not consciously aware of at this time, but it's there, it's so yeah, it's been very interesting and eye-opening the
I
past few
want to
months.
be thankful and grateful for my connection to the Sasquatch people, because it's not that they did a lot of stuff to me, but what they did is by example, is they just showed me these doors to walk in, and that it was kind of okay to be in that neighborhood and walk in those doors. And one of those doors was when they were talking about, I was listening to them talk through a channel in 2012 and 2013, and they were talking about no space. And that one really got me going. Like, what is no space? What is that all about? And no space is no time, right? Because if there's no space between me and you, then there's no time, right? And that no space also implies like a blending, like everything is touching and enmeshed. There is no space between this hand and that hand. It's all one. But there's more to it, and that is, if there's no space and no time, what that actually means is that nothing ever happened. Because you have to have something over here that happens and then goes over to there. And if there's no space and no time, then that means nothing ever happened, which gets back to the play and the lila.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Is like it really is a play, because we think all this stuff is happening and we make our conclusions and our judgments and our points of view, and we move our whole life that way. And then I'm not entirely sure that anything has ever happened. You know what I mean? And if
Right.
nothing's ever happened, then why are you triggered? You know what I mean? Why are you upset? Or what? It's like it's a fraud. It's like a fake, and it's fun, right? And that's what I see with Sasquatch. They must know it's all fake, because they're just completely, we're not going to play that game that you guys are playing. We're doing
Right.
something over here, and we're having
Right.
loads of fun because we can go back and forth to these dimensions anytime we want. And they show us. They go invisible. They show us. They shapeshift. Too many people have seen shapeshifts. They fly. They do all kinds of stuff.
Right.
And I think that, and they show us. You know what I mean? Just like the UFOs want to be seen, the Sasquatch want to be seen, and kind of as a teaching. They didn't spoon feed this stuff to me. It was just by example and my curiosity, and then that's just been sharpening my whole perception, because the paradigm shift from everything is happening, good and bad, to nothing is happening. That's a pretty big paradigm
Right.
shift. You know what I mean?
Right.
If nothing's happening, then why would you have to put a value statement on it? You know what I mean? Like, this is good, this is bad, this is helpful, this is not helpful, this is right. Why would you have to put a value judgment on it if it's not, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's like the Matrix. You can say the Matrix good, you know, that's a good movie. It's amazing. But it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
real.
Well, that's yeah. So if Shiva is making Leela, right? Because in order to, but there's an understanding that it's not real, and just in a sense, it's not real. It's just a play. It's it's just not that serious or detrimental, and we get caught up in it, and you can have these moments of clarity where you're like, oh, I got stuck in my character again, or whatever. I need to pull back and just realize where we are. Where this, I mean, it's paradoxical. I touch on that a lot to say this, right? As if like this is this really important time that we're in right now, but at the same time, it's not really that important. You know what I mean? So, uh, but it is because where we're going is Mother Gaia wants to create a space for us to have a human experience on a level that's new and like a new play. So while she's rising her vibration up to a point where, say, it's fourth density, fifth dimensional, whatever way you like to explain it, and going back to there's other Earths, not necessarily. I mean, there are other Earths. There's a lot of other planets that are like Earth, like a three-dimensional planet where you can have three-dimensional experiences on, right? They just might have a little bit of a different theme. Um, so where Mother Gaia is going is going to be, say, fourth density, fifth dimensional experiences, where if there's still souls that want to have a third dimensional experience, they'll just go to another Earth or another planet that gives them an opportunity to have a third dimensional experience, right? That at that density. Um, so yeah, we're just changing the stage. So it's still going to be a play. It's just going to be a little lighthearted, not so serious, not that gut wrenching, like watching that one movie that'll make you cry. It's like a rom com is what we're moving into. We're really going to laugh. We're going to have fun. It's going to be lighthearted, and so that to me is like super exciting. But I guess
Yeah,
for some people that
yeah.
would be like, you know,
To
I
be
still
to
some
be
people still want to
in
have.
yeah, to be in that space. And that, and you like Michael said, there's no space, but then there's all space. So it's whatever and wherever you are that you connect with those things. And we were talking about this feminine coming back. I've supported the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers for many years, and it was through them actually that I was made ready for Kashima to come. And it's been about their teachings. And one of the things is that feminine is so important, but the masculine is too.
Yeah,
And
right.
as the feminine then comes forward and connects with that masculine, and the
Yep.
masculine is touched and understands that feminine, and the feminine understands that masculine, that's when things will be much easier to understand. It's like a pendulum. You've got a pendulum, it's in the center. Well, it swings one way,
Right.
way the other way,
Right.
and then it's going to come back. And so it did. We were a feminine creation in so many ways, a feminine society, and then that masculine stepped in and pulled that pendulum way to the other side. It didn't go just a little bit and come back. No, it went way to the other side.
Right.
And I heard a Cherokee elder say that things would have been better for the Cherokee people if they had not given up their matrilineal ways and took on what was being forced upon them to literally save their people.
Right.
And because so many cultures, it was that feminine that was important. The masculine was important too.
Yeah, but then
Absolutely.
if you're in 3D, that's the kind of stuff that happens.
Yes,
We,
exactly.
we have a constitution that says we the people of the United States, we the people in order to form a more perfect union. Well, you have polarity there, right? So if you have a more perfect union, what is that connected to? A more corrupt union. So it goes from perfect to corrupt, right? It goes from masculine to feminine. It goes from inside to outside. And it's like at some point we got to say, we got to play the game as infinite and immortal beings and not play the game as finite characters in the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So when I say the call back for the feminine energy is being called back, it's being called back not to necessarily take charge, but to balance everything back out again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. And that's that space of the feminine and the masculine. I mean, totally together.
Right.
And that, that's another division thing where we can be divided, and we have been. And, and I've seen that in my life. I know Michael has too, to where when that feminine decided, whoa, wait a minute, we got to step up here. We've got to let our side be heard. And so you had the feminist movement that come up. And I heard someone say that the most miraculous thing they saw during the feminist movement was men there with those.
Right.
Those men understood. They were already connected to that feminine aspect. And I'm not saying feminine in, a derogatory term or the feminist movement. All movements that I've seen in my lifetime have a definitely negative connotation to them in some way. It's our nature to go as far out there as we can to get a point across. But what I see is that coming back. The men now, oh my gosh, I'm just like you, Sam, and you, Michael, and so many others that carry that feminine aspect of understanding in them. I see the physical realities of that now in so many men. The men that I grew up with, or in my young lifetime when I started having children, there were nothing like the men now. At all, and that tells me so much, and it makes me so thankful for all the men I see who openly share that feminine aspect of them.
Being vulnerable. Because as children, the old paradigm way is to teach, which is why children's super important right now, because they haven't been conditioned or programmed at a young age. They're still fresh spirit, right? Still fresh spirit coming to a body, which is why most of us had experiences as children with Sasquatch people, with star people, with elementals or whoever, right? It's like before we are molded into the character that we're supposed to play, societally speaking. They kind of come in there as like they plant the seed of remember who you are, right? So my Sasquatch experience when I was 8 years old was that seed planting to remember who I am, right? When I wake up to myself and I can look back and be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so the the feminine energy coming back up is like on a human level, it's women stepping into their place and taking power back, right? That's been taken from them for so long. But it's also men stepping into their feminine energy and accepting the feminine side of them. And you know, because we're taught as kids or whatever when we're growing up as boys, you know, like man up is like something, you know, that we're told, man up, don't show your emotions, don't cry, what are you crying for, you know? And that's suppressing the feminine side of us, right? And like women naturally are more intuitive. They're more in touch with their spiritual nature. They're more in touch with their emotional nature, right? And it's acceptable. And as men, we're told not to do that. You know, and like a political stage, one of the things you hear a lot people say is like, "Oh, you don't want a woman president because they're too emotional," right? Meanwhile, we have all these men having temper tantrums and punching each other and screaming and losing their minds. You know, like that's not emotional.
Yeah.
So there's been this suppression of the feminine, you know, through the Salem witch trials and just burning witches at the stake or whatever you want to call it throughout history. And yeah, so that's being called back up. I want to. This is a story that happened over just a few months ago this fall. And while you were talking, it reminded me of this. Kristen and I were going to go to, there's this amphitheater here that plays outside shows. It's like a big concert, but sometimes they're pretty expensive. So we wanted to go see this one gentleman playing, and we just didn't have the money to pay for it. It was like $100 a ticket or something. So we went, there's this area we can go on this bridge that goes over the river, and you can acoustically hear the concert very well, right? So we go, sometimes we stand on this bridge and we'll just listen to the music. And so there was these three, I'd say like 20-year-old men, and this one man who was probably mid 50s. And they were riding their bikes around because there's all these bike trails around there too. And so this is probably 9 o'clock at night. And we're just sitting there. It's me, it's Kristen and I, my wife, and then this other gentleman. So a little bit down. We're all doing the same thing, just peacefully, quietly listening to the music. And I hear these screaming coming down the bike path, right? It's like these four guys. They're just screaming, hooting and hollering, just having a blast, like, woo, like, yeah, just being loud. We came to the conclusion that we think that the amphitheater paid these guys to do this, right? To keep people from like hanging out and listening to the music. So they just want to be disruptive and make people leave. Well, they came really close to us at one point, and they just screaming, you know, riding around in circles, just being loud and obnoxious. And at one point, one of them swung real close to us. I mean, like he came maybe within a foot of us on his bike, right? Just swung right past us. Kristen was already irritated, and she snapped, right? And she turned around and she walked right up to all three or all four of them. And she was like, "Are you happy? Are you happy now?" And they were like, and they just stopped. And they were like, what do you mean? And she was like, "Well, you wanted our attention. Now you got it. Are you happy now?" And all four of them just stopped like they were being yelled at by their grandmother. And it was just that, like, they were like, oh. And me knowing where I grew up, I was like, crap, I'm going to have to fight these guys because they're going to get disrespectful to Kristen, you know, and I'm going to step in and be like, you know, whatever. So I stood behind her and watched her. I just let her do it. And she just laid into him, you know, like, what is your problem? We're just sitting here trying to enjoy the quiet, enjoy the music. And you guys are just doing this. She was like, obviously you guys want attention. Well, you got it. What do you want? And they were like, nothing. I don't know. And so anyways, they quietly left. Kristen came back and I was like, let's go for a walk, because I could tell she was heated. So we walked away. But just the way that feminine stepped in, and you know how men get when we get around each other, we just turn into morons sometimes, and we get really dumb. But just the way that it just squashed it instantly. And they were like, yes, ma'am, you know, like, we're sorry. So I get that feeling of like, that's what's coming, you know, like that feminine energy coming and being like, okay, enough of this, you know, and the balance is coming soon for sure.
Yep. And she addressed exactly what they wanted.
Right.
Attention.
Right. Uh,
Sometimes it just takes that being pointed out to
right,
us,
right,
and then it's like, oh my gosh, well, she knows. She knows what we want.
right. Well, I mean, it's true because uh, yeah, like my grandmother was such an influential part of my life too, right? If she steps in and if she's even the slightest bit irritated, I'm like, oh, what did I do something? Like, what is it? It's like something about it where, the man steps in and they're angry and that energy is just being bounced off each other, right? Which is what we're living right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and most women don't jump up and say, if you don't shut up, I'm going to beat.
Right.
I
Right.
have seen some that would,
No,
but
she will.
most
Yeah,
are
she
not
will.
going to handle it like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Uh yeah. So yeah, that experience was very like I'm sure that happened for that reason, but just the way it played out, I was like, I got to actually see it, experience
Yeah.
of what it could be. Yeah.
Well, this whole man-woman thing is part of the whole universe itself. The dark part of the universe is considered feminine, and angelic realm they call that the divine feminine. They call it the divine will, which is the great mother. And her attributes. This is kind of, so you have God the Father and God the Mother, but her attributes are absolute inclusivity and
Right.
unconditional love. Those are her attributes.
Right.
Well, there's a problem with absolute inclusivity and unconditional love, and that is all the negative, all the evil, and all that kind of junk, everything traumatic or painful is also accepted and loved by her. And so this kind of it's kind of just threw a real big monkey wrench in God the Father's perfect creation. You know what I mean? Cain killed Abel. Like what? What?
Right.
What? Why would what? That was the very beginning of this perfect creation. You know what I mean? And then the whole thing of duality, polarity, like we talked before, of you bring in something good and then it turns to crap, or the
Right.
people who are doing crap end up with the most money and all this kind of stuff. It's all that kind of chaos. There's a chaos involved in that, and so there's
Oh yeah.
there's been suppression of the feminine for a long time, and this whole God, Father, God the Mother, I think they're working it out now. And that's what one of our major components of the shift is that God the Father is waking it up inside himself and saying, I'm a God, and here I am being a misogynist asshole. You know what I mean?
Right.
At times, and it's like, and that has caused a lot of suffering that didn't need to happen, because it's the feminine that balances out the male. It's like if the man has a good idea, he needs the feminine to balance it out and make sure it's good for everybody. And if that step's not taken, then heart can't come into play, because
Right.
heart, so that's the reason why the number one issue of everything is heartlessness. Is if there's the father and mother aren't getting along, then the child, was represented by the heart, can't stand and thrive and be a pillar of the family, a pillar of the reality. Yeah, that's
Right.
because almost everything that goes on that's bad, or evil, or painful, or war, or whatever it is, has heartlessness. It's just because nobody was in their heart. They're in their
Right.
minds.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what moving up into the higher dimensions too is like a
Yeah, so it's a big deal, because there's a certain like murmur at the edge of the awakened ones that say that our awakening is not just for humanity; it is impactful to all of creation.
yeah,
And I
absolutely.
feel like that's true. Either it's coming from creation and hitting us and reverberating back, or it's actually this transformation is born within us and is reverberating out into creation and then echoing back.
It's both.
Something
It's
big
both.
is happening, put it that way.
Right. It's both because on this level of reality, we're playing out these things. This is the stage for the play. The higher realms where we get our guidance and where we're also at the same time we're here, we just place our awareness on this level for right now, right? And when we go into dream time, we actually stay tethered to our bodies, hopefully, but we'll travel back into the higher planes where we get our guidance and where we're also, there's aspects of us on those higher planes. But everything on this realm, everything on every plane is being played out from the plane above it, right? So what we're doing here on the 3-dimensional realm is actually being thought out on the 4th dimensional, but also on the 5th, and then it moves down a level to be enacted. So everything that we're going through is also happening on the higher planes to adjust for us to move up to those higher planes, if that makes sense. So this isn't just something that's happening on this level, it's happening on all of them. There's like it's playing from creation down, playing out here, and then it's also moving back up. So it's like this.
Absolutely, and that's well said. I'm so glad you got to that point, because that's really what's going on. Is that the model or the template of all of our adversity was already set in heaven. There was a war in heaven. There was misogyny in heaven. There was
Right.
Angels didn't have a feminine side. It wasn't until you got down past the angels to the cherubs and seraphims that you had a male and female. And then after that came the human being types that were in polarized. So it's like all that stuff was going on. And then there was a war in heaven, and that was a big hot mess over heart. And so all those templates, and also the pyramid structure of the organization, which was the God at the top, and then the
Yep.
upper archangels and the ancient ones who guard the light, all that, then it comes on down to us really, which is a pyramid structure, and that all is going to have to shift, because that's not the fundamental reality. Is we're all the same energy, and we
Right.
all have the same value. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, it's healing, right? It's healing. It's shadow work playing out on every level,
Yeah.
essentially, if you think
Our,
about it.
our shadow work is God's shadow work.
Right. Right.
The
And
same
that's what
thing.
that's Leela, right?
And if we have denial, it's because God had denial first.
Well, that's what all this is. That's what all of Leela is, right? Is learning about, because everything is a theoretical concept until it's tested. So before we're incarnated here, it could literally be as simple as on a higher plane. One day a bunch of us are sitting around and we're like, what do you think would happen if I was born, in whatever scenario you want to play out, right? And then everyone around's like, I don't know. What do you think would happen? Like, I don't know. I guess I got to go down and find out what would happen, right? So here you are. You're living this life to figure out what would happen in whatever scenario that you're playing out right now, right? So, uh, yeah, it's all really. I guess that's what part of when we get reconnected with our inner selves, right? If you do the healing work and use what's being presented to us right now in a beneficial manner towards healing, and you start to reconnect with yourself, going back into the heart thing, gives us an opportunity to reconnect with those aspects of ourselves that are on the higher planes, and that's where we can get our guidance from more easily and more readily, which is why it's really important. That's why I like to use explaining through all this. I like to use it and mentioning it in like a density, because to me it's easy to use it as like when you talk about chakras, right? And you have like your 7 in your body and then the ones outside of your body. But so the 4th chakra is your heart chakra, and your 3rd is your solar plexus, right? So we're moving from the 3rd density into like the 4th density. So essentially we're moving into the heart chakra, as if I use it as like a personified example. That's where Mother Gaia is moving to. It's still like a more of a heart-based resonance. So moving into the heart is really gonna be detrimental to everybody. I mean, I can't think of a bad thing. Like, even if everything we're talking about right now is just nonsense, right? Like, what's healing? Like, even if you were just healing just to heal, like there's nothing but benefit to come from that, right? So why wouldn't you just do it anyways? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. One thing you touched on this earlier, Arla, was you talked about seeing something and it will trigger something inside you, like reading something or seeing a video or something will kind of trigger something inside of you. And what's been happening with me a lot lately is uh, say I'll watch a video or I'll read something, and while I'm reading it, my guidance lately has been coming in, and it's like a kind of like a trigger where I will read something and there's like a voice from my guidance, and it's been a combination of a Sasquatch group, a local Sasquatch group here, and through V. Um, some people I have yet to meet, but I've recognized the voice, and I know that some people will say, "Oh, that sounds crazy." Sure, might be, but regardless, there was a post that was made in one of the groups the other day, and it was about how if Sasquatch are such loving, heartfelt beings, why are there reports of people being hurt by them or something like that, right? And I was reading it, and there was a lot of really good comments in it, right, and a lot of stuff that I agreed with. And as I was reading it, um, one of the local Sasquatch groups stepped in and said peacemakers, and what that and then they showed me what that meant was that some of us, and I don't mean like, I'm not trying to say that as like a chosen few. What I mean is like the people that are out there right now, and most of the people that are probably watching the show are out there being peacemakers between us and the Sasquatch people. And there's other people that are being peacemakers with us and star people, us and elemental people, us and whomever else, fae folk, whoever else is out there. And by peacemaker, it was shown to me that, like, so the campouts that we have in these places, we're meeting at a place where it's acceptable for both us and say the Sasquatch people can meet, right? And then there's like a bridge that's being made between us and the Sasquatch people. And then kind of like we're human ambassadors to the Sasquatch, they're Sasquatch ambassadors to us, right? And then so we meet with certain, we might not meet all of them, but we'll meet with like certain ones, right? And that happens on with star people as well, right? I know Arla's meeting with ambassadors like certain star people right now, and I have, and uh, all of these different layers. And the thing that got me the most was I was told emphatically there was no time or time frame of when this was going to happen. Was that the reason this is so important right now is because we will live together, all of
Yep.
us.
Yep.
Once again, like, so it wasn't necessarily sound like soon or whenever, but it was just like the peacemaker is important right now, and this is why I've been urged to come talk more, is because we will all be living together soon.
Yeah.
I imagine that has something to do
I
with
agree.
disclosure, and so
That's the main reason. And I said this, oh my gosh, I don't have any idea how many times, thousands probably, that I came into this to help people.
right,
I didn't come into this specifically to help the Sasquatch people, even though that was part of what I was doing. I was asked to do this. I did not decide one day, well, I believe I'm going to go out now and start talking publicly about my experiences with them. And I'm just going to share the truth of what I know and what I've experienced. I did choose to do it. I was asked to do it, but I was given the choice that you don't have to do this. It's totally your choice to do this. And when I chose to do it, I really had no idea what it was going to be like that many years ago, because the community has changed a lot over those years. And helping people get past their fear, opening up to understand that your reality of what you believe about them, that's going to factor in to what's going to happen to you
Right.
when you're out there. I've seen that happen firsthand over and over and over. And so we are peacemakers, and we're helping other people to have that peace, that these beings are not what they perceived that they were. And
Right.
it's the same with the star people. Oh my gosh, there have been old movies popping up on YouTube, and it's been like, oh my gosh, I remember when that was out, and this one's like, oh, the earth is getting ready to be taken over by the aliens, and they're going to come and they're going to do all of this. And then,
Right.
Here the other day, I see this person talking about a dream they had where these ships come in and they're beaming down and grabbing humans and pulling them up on the ships because they're going to fix everything.
Right.
They're going to
Right.
take over, and it's like we are fed this fear. And when we get past that fear and realize, that there's a whole lot more going on here than this large, hairy being that's
Right.
in our woods. There's so much more going on. I mean, Michael talked about that a while ago.
Yeah.
So as peacekeepers, I say all the time, if you want peace, then you're going to have to be peace.
Hmm.
You
Yep.
can't have peace if you can't be peace.
Right.
And you can't have love, not this love that we've been talking about, unless you can be that. And you can open up to that and be that. I see so many peacekeepers out there now.
Yeah.
It's like there was this huge explosion, and all of these peacekeepers were just thrown out of this explosion into our world,
Right.
and is doing all these things. And I'm seeing that with the star people as well. So many are saying, we've got to let that old stereotypical thing go. If they were going to come and take over, they would have done that before now. And
Right.
the
Well,
Sasquatch would all come in and got rid of us a long time before now.
yeah.
But that's not what that's about. It's about them supporting us and being there with us. They're our relatives.
Right. Yeah. And there was a time, long time ago, in a linear scale, there was a time where they did come, the star people. There was
Mm.
non-benevolent star people that came here a while ago, long time ago, right? And that's kind of who's driven the old paradigm. We're moving out of that now, right? So as we're raising up, we're getting to a point where the higher vibrationally resonance that Mother Gaia goes, we're going to go with her. And that's when the
Yes.
veil's going to thin, because we're going to start entering that higher plane that star people, Sasquatch people, and all these other elementals and fae folk, they resonate that, right? So that's why it's so important right now to come in. And disclosure, again, going back to disclosure, this has been stressed to me a lot, is to talk about this. Like, disclosure doesn't mean that they're going to come in and save us, right? They're not going to just show up and be like, all right,
Nope.
we're here. No, we do this, going back to how things are happening on the higher planes, but then they move down and we do the work here, right? That's what's happening right now. They're going to show up and help people be peacemakers or whatever it is, right? They're
Mhm.
going to guide us to show us how we can do it, but they're not going to do it for us. We have to do that. Like, that's the important part. I go back to this story, this analogy a lot. Um, there's like a flood, right? And there's a guy gets on his roof because the flood waters are rising up, right? And he's on his roof and he's praying to God. He's like, "Oh God, please save me," right? And then this boat, a little bit later, this boat pulls up, right? And this guy's like, "Hey, you want to hop on the boat? I'll take you to shore." And uh, the guy's like, "No, no, no, my Lord's going to save me," you know. So the guy's like, "Okay," so he leaves on the boat, you know. And then a little bit later, another boat comes by. They're like, "Hey, hop in, you know, we're going to go in town or whatever." And he's like, "No, my Lord's going to save me." And they're like, "All right." And then later, like a helicopter comes in, right? Tries to save him. You know, he's like, "No, no, no, my Lord's going to save me." So the helicopter leaves. So eventually, the flood waters overtake the house, and the guy drowns, right? And he shows up pearly gates and says, like, "What happened? Why didn't you save me?" You know, and the Lord says, like, "I sent you a boat, I sent you another boat, and I sent you a helicopter, and you denied all of them." You know, so like I go back to
Yeah.
that, like we do the work here on this 3D level, right? So the guidance can come in, but everything has to be done through us. Like we do it. And then
Yeah.
eventually, when we rise up to that point where
Yeah.
we're living together again, right? Then we can have them help us more. But
Yeah. You know, the higher levels that you've been talking about that get all of this ready and then we do it here. It's like they're writing the curriculum
yeah,
for
right.
this school
Yep.
and pushing it down here or putting it here, you
Yep.
know, for us to get to work through this while we're here in class.
Yeah.
And the star people that I'm working with, um, they are here helping Mother Earth. They
Yep.
are here helping her energetically on that physical level
Yep.
that she needed to help her in her vibrational growth as well.
Right.
Kashima talked some about what he called a wobble that happens here on Earth, and I have since heard that used by scientists, that term wobble. And Kashima talked about it as energetically things get kind of out of balance. And because we know that everything we do or say affects everything around us. And that was one of the things that they told me is they came here and each one, of course, works with an element of the earth, water, air, and so forth.
Right.
But they're also helping humanity, whether humanity realizes it or not. They are, they are helping us. And from what they've told me, uh, disclosure is that 3D dimensional thing that man thinks he has to have for
Right.
everything to be proven in the way that they want it to be proven. But the truth of the matter is, full contact will come when they know we're ready for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not going to be about their, we're going to find out all of this stuff that they've done to us or whatever, and and then we're going to have contact. I don't much think that anything that the government say would be extremely positive
No.
because that controlling fear but we can take care of you is very prevalent in our world. And
Yeah. Right.
I get so excited about all of this because in talking with them and Kashima and the other agents, it's like, oh, we're getting so close. We could be a breath away from understanding this, from really understanding that they are our relatives and we're in contact with them as a humanity and
Right.
not just an individual, because there are so many individuals who and groups too are in contact with them as well as Sasquatch people and the fairies and all the others
Yeah.
that are here. They all have their peacekeepers.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and yeah. Uh, disclosure thing is, yeah, it's been shown to me we will all live together again, right? So the disclosure that we hear a lot about, it's going to happen. It might not happen as we expect, because from my experience, a lot of the stuff is not happening how we think it's going to happen. Something's going to come out of left field that we haven't designed yet, because on the new paradigm, that's just how things operate, right? It's just stuff we're not familiar with. So, and a lot of people want disclosure because they want to be proven right, right? So if you step out of your comfort zone and you know, come out as someone who claims to have contact with star people or aliens or UFOs or whatever, and you're ridiculed, you know, and made fun of for whatever reason by people, a lot of people want disclosure just so they can be proven right, and I understand that, and you will probably at some point, but that's not why that's important. Like, this is going to happen, and the government is going to try to stay relevant in any way it's going to. You know, it's going to try to stay relevant, and the only way that they can think from old paradigm logic is to stay relevant is to tell everybody that we need the government to protect us from these UFOs that are coming down and blah blah blah. And I can't speak for everyone. From what I've been shown and what's been shared with me, never once has there been any mention with any government entity, no government at all has been mentioned into anything I've been shown, as in like, this side of the government's helping us, this side of the government is fighting us. You know, I've never even been shown any of that. So from what I've come to understand is, government's not going to have anything to do with any of this stuff, right? Like, I guess we're going to get to a point where there's not really going to necessarily be a need for a government, so to speak. So I don't know at what point that will be. But the whole like bad government, this side of the government's bad, this side of the government's good thing, that's never been shown to me as any kind of relevance to any of this, to be honest. That's just stuff, that crap that's playing out on a human level.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that, you know, that's like when they had told me, Ismail is actually the one who is Arcturian, who told me, you know, that it doesn't matter what the government does with disclosure. It doesn't matter what happens from any government or any entity. They will make the decision as to when we're, you know, going to have full contact. And I was told the same thing years ago by Kashima, that will happen as well when they understand that humanity is ready
Right.
for this.
Right.
And so I just have such peace knowing that, you know, they are the ones who are in charge of this. I remember telling someone who was doing a DNA study about this, we're not in charge of proving the Sasquatch, that, you know, they're here. We're not in charge of that. No matter what you do, no matter how many hairs you have or whatever, we're not in charge.
Right.
They are.
Yeah.
And they know. They've been here to help us, and they know when humanity will be ready, you know, for this. So I don't worry about what the government does or doesn't do at this point. What are they going to do for me? The majority of the time, they don't have a whole lot to do with any major change in my life.
No.
You know,
Nothing
so
good, anyways.
yeah, and you know, and I could get on the soapbox and say, well, they did this and they did that, and you know what? I'm going to live however I'm supposed to live, regardless. You know, can they make laws and things that make it harder? Well, sure. You know, they have that ability to do. But I know Henry Franzoni and I talked a lot about things that were going on that I had never really talked about publicly. I have since then, but that there has always been these liaisons who have been here on Earth from many planets, many star systems, many beings, working with uh, those who live here as well. There's always been this group, and some would classify it as an undisclosed government group. But from what I understand, the government really has nothing to do with it and no control over, what's being done with that. So we got a lot of beings that are looking out for us.
Yeah.
And helping us. That's one of the things Kashima does, is he is a liaison, not only here on Earth but other places as well. And I'm sure many ancients are doing the same thing. So I'm just going to continue to do what I know to do, and that's send peace and love out and plant seeds and enjoy wonderful conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it is funny to think about all these conspiracies about the government, right? And some of them are true. I understand that. But they make it seem like the government's like this really well lubed, like really well moving thing with all these really, just brilliant people. As someone that grew up in DC and someone that I used to be a bike messenger in the 90s during the Clinton administration. So I was in the House building, the Senate building, the Capitol and stuff. I had to deliver packages all the time to government buildings, all these bureaucratic buildings and stuff. And there's one thing I learned: that government is a freaking mess, and there's no way that those people know what they're doing, right? So half the time they're full of shit. I mean, there's just no other way. They're just shooting from their hip, just trying to make money. Like that's all they're really doing, right? And they're just making up lies and blah blah blah. And they got sludge funds to cover up their affairs that they're having, and it is so gross and corrupt there. I have tons of stories that I won't get into right now. Just the things that I saw pre 9/11, pre when the security was still really lax in those buildings. You just made it through a metal detector. You could go anywhere in those buildings back then. I mean, there was really no security. So I saw so much stuff that was really just like this person's running our, like this person's a senator. What the hell? But I know that there are shadow aspects to the government for sure. I mean, when the Pentagon goes through its audit and it comes up that all this money just magically disappeared, I know that goes to shadow entities to make, whatever they're making, weapons or ET technology or whatever it is. So, yeah, it is humorous to me when people are like, the government. I'm like, man, some of this government is so inept. It's not even funny. They're worse than us,
I really love this conversation, and well, it's about disclosure. And I think when we tie disclosure into the like some kind of an awakening or an ascension kind of a deal,
Mm-hmm.
we're at the state right now, and we have been for a while, where it's really important for us to know who the star nations are, or like what is that? What's the star nation? Because in a very real way, they're mirroring us. They're saying, well, they're us in the future. There are all these possibilities and stuff. And then when Sam was talking about the, some kind of disclosure coming from left field, and I think there is a disclosure that's coming from left field that is more important. Like, what is more important than the UFO and star nations and the 100 star nations? Or how about the disclosure of who we are?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's
Right.
a disclosure of who we are. And we are energy beings. And as energy beings, we're infinite and immortal. And there's all this kind of stuff being shown that we're infinite We're immortal, right? What I mean by immortal is there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of near-death experiences where people don't die. They're wide awake on the other side. They come back and they write a book about it, tell stories about it. We're immortal. We're immortal beings. That that has meanings. That's like a rudder in the water. You know, if you only know you're going to live 75 or 80 years, that's one kind of rudder in the water.
Right.
And then, and you live your life according to that. But if you know you're going to come back and you're going to ride this pony forever.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, right.
That's a different understanding. And then
Absolutely.
the other thing is the infinite part which goes back to the no space kind of thing. And the simplest way of doing it, which is no space describes all of the psychic phenomena, all of it, bilocation, transportation, all this kind of stuff, right? And the way it works is, and I use remote viewing as an example, because you can remote view any point in time and any point in space, in the past and the future, all that. You can do that, right? But there is no such thing as remote viewing because it's not remote and it's not viewing. What it is a feeling inside. So we're these infinite energy beings that can feel what we're already in touch with, which is every point in time and space. With these two little disclosure things that we're infinite and immortal beings, when we start to walk in those shoes, that's going to change the government because we're self-governed. We're already self-governed. We're already connected to all the good stuff and all the bad stuff and everything you could possibly know. One of the fantastic things that people do, these ladies and the men who have these near-death experiences, they meet their relatives and they get a little coaching. They go read their past life stuff, and then there's a lot of them that say this. So somewhere in there, right? They just said, "I knew everything in the universe."
Right.
I knew everything in the universe. And I said, well, can you put that? I can't put it in human language, but I knew everything in the universe.
Right.
And I'm saying, when we start to walk in those shoes, we already are connected to everything in the universe, and we already know everything in the universe. So what's more important, our understanding who we are, or understanding who the ETs are, or disclosing the lies and corruption of the government, which is a complete fraud and an illusion.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that Sasquatch are playing a major play on that.
Yes, they are. And
Absolutely.
that's part of what Kashima calls the knowing.
The knowing,
I mean,
right.
You just know.
Yeah.
And once you've connected to that and you hold on to that, then whatever happens, you still know.
Right.
And you know because you're infinite and connected to all the knowing that there is.
Yeah. Yeah. There's certain levels. My mind likes to just like think about it like thermoclines and water. I don't know if that makes sense to most people, but like the deeper you go, the colder it is, right? And the more dense and the more pressure is down there, and the higher you go in the water towards the surface, it gets lighter, it gets less dense, it gets warmer. So when we are incarnated here in this density, we lose a lot of information because it doesn't make it down to us, right? It's like if you could think of us as like one of those deep sea divers from back in the day that had those suits, right? And those big metal suits, but there's like the oxygen that goes up to the tank on the surface, and there's the communication line, right? Where they're trying to talk to us, some of that stuff isn't going to make it all the way down there, right? It's just not. It's going to lose its relevance, or it's just going to lose its energy. And as we rise our vibrations up higher and higher, you start to enter these levels where that information is accessible, right? And then you'll get these group messages. Everybody, you'll notice that a lot of people will start getting like the same general message around the same time frame. And that's because we're moving up into this place where that information is at that level, but it didn't exist before at the lower levels. And that's going to continue to happen and happen and happen. We're going to learn more about ourselves, and yeah, when I had my near death experiences, I was in the plane where my body was a light body, and I was part of everything that was around me, and everything was golden light and love, including myself. So if you can imagine, you're just swimming in a warm pool of love, and there's just golden light
Yes.
everywhere. That's what it's like. And while I was there, it was just this knowing. I just knew, like, oh, this is it. Like, I don't want to. Why would I want to go back to Earth? Like, this is amazing. Like, this is all I ever wanted.
Mhm.
So yeah, I it is the higher we go, the more work we do, the more healing we do on ourselves, and we raise our vibrations, the more you're going to start to know. No, I mean, that's the knowing. You're just going to start to learn these things,
Yep.
and you're going to have these epiphanies, and they're going to come in like these waves. And going back to angels, star people, angels are star people. Like, it's just different language, right? Aliens, angels, star people, it's all the same thing. They're just higher dimensional entities. There are relatives, there are ancestors, Pleiadians, Arcturians, Andromedans, Syrians, Orions. Like, they're all higher dimensional angels, whatever you want to call them, right? It's all the same thing. And one thing I've learned during this, and this might help some people, and this might freak some people out, you don't have any privacy. You don't have any privacy. I'm sorry. There is always somebody watching you, right? From the higher plane.
Yeah.
So if you think that you can go sneak in a corner and do something without nobody knowing, somebody knows, all right? And it's all unconditional love. So it's not like they're judging you for it,
Mm,
right?
no.
They might get a giggle out of it or something, but it's so yeah, if you think that you're gonna get away with something without anybody knowing, nope.
Mm,
Somebody's always watching. And for me, that's been a really strong motivation to get my shit together because, like Michael said, like, you're an infinite immortal being. Like, why do you want to keep digging yourself into a hole? Like,
yeah.
pull yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah. It's that
oh,
knowing that I know
right.
that has helped me probably more than anything, is just to know. And I, there are times when I am just so totally connected in, and I watch myself, and I'm like this little girl sitting on the ground. Just I'm just grinning so big because my heart just knows I'm complete. I'm infinite and complete,
Right.
and I know.
And protected.
Yes.
Yeah. You're
Oh,
divinely
oh
protected, right?
yes. Yeah.
Right. And we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do feel. I mean, if I'm being honest, I say that the star people aren't going to step in and like do it for us. I do feel this genuine in my heart. I haven't been told this, but I do feel that if something were to happen and some human were to do something, say like nuclear, right?
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
genuinely feel like they would step in and stop that.
Yeah,
So
I do too. That's one of the things that I've gotten from them. I mean, they're literally here helping this Earth Mother.
right, right,
And, that could be stopped in multiple different ways,
yeah,
energetically, whatever. It
right,
could be stopped.
yeah,
Um, that the Earth Mother was birthed out of love. She was birthed with purpose,
right,
and that purpose is what we are learning, what other beings who have come here to learn are learning, and they're going to do their best. I mean, they have intervened in so many ways to
right,
help the Earth Mother. We intervene all the time. The little thing that I post on the new moon and the full moon about support the grid, putting that love and healing energy into that, that helps. You may not feel like, well, I'm not really affecting anything, but you are.
right, right.
Anytime you send that out, that love and support, you are helping.
Yeah, sending it into the mother. That's what divine intervention comes in many different ways. It's not just You know, it can come on the human level, it can come on like many different levels, but
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, the Star People are here to help Mother Gaia. I mean, they're here to help us too, but
Yeah.
she specifically asked, Mother Gaia asked for its help, right? From humans, from Star People, and it's been like agreed upon that this is going to happen. So they're here to help her. And I know, like from a human, we like to think that they're here to help us, which they are, but they're really here for her. Like
Yep.
they're here to
Yep.
help her,
Yep.
and they're going to protect her in whatever way they will. So uh, when I hear like those scare tactics of nuclear blah blah blah, I don't really like I don't put much relevance in that right now because I don't feel like that's the thing anymore. Going back to the paradigm flip of a mirror, I don't think that that's going to happen again. I think when that happened, that was like, I don't know if that was the turning point, but it was definitely one of the turning points in the narrative being changed of like, okay, we're getting real close to hitting rock bottom here. So we need to start turning things around for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want to kind of want to slow this thing down a little bit. I just want to tell you how grateful I am to have you uh, be the table and the platform for which we had this conversation today. Because to me, I feel really nourished. I feel like touched and like light came into me in places that really needed some light. And I think that was all because of you. And you were feeling something similar before we talked. But wow, thanks a lot for such a uh, great use of your time.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, no, this is the time. We're gonna need this. We're gonna come. We have to come together. That's something that we have to come together, right? We can't rely
Yes.
on
Yeah.
we can't rely on Star People. We can't rely on government or whoever it is, right? This is going to be us. We have to do this. So, um, moving forward, we're all going to have to learn to play together
Yeah.
nicely. So, uh,
Yep.
we should just start doing that now because it's going to have to happen anyway. So,
Yeah.
um, government's not a good, not something to rely on anymore. Not that we should have
Yeah.
in the first place, but
Yeah.
what a freaking mess. If I was going to go look for help, that's the last place I'm going to look for help right now. So, um,
Yeah.
we need each other. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. And that's, they're there uh supporting us, with like talking with the Star People and them telling me different ones what they're working with. Circe, the uh moon water person, they're working with the waters and helping the waters and supporting the energy and doing things like that. And then, you've got the others that are working with
Right.
the other things and then bringing us into it, and that is what the light codes um, are about. And it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not going to negate what those codes were sent for.
Mm,
That energy is still out there.
right.
They did it with a purpose because they knew I'd talk about it.
Right.
And that, that,
It's
that I
true.
would
Yeah. Yeah.
share it.
Right.
And they knew that I'd already been tested by the fire when I came out and started speaking about the Sasquatch people. There was so many people who wanted to shut me up, and
Yeah.
nobody's been
Right.
able to shut me up
Right.
yet. And I'm not going to be quiet about this either, they knew that. They knew that they could do this for me to share and that I would do it regardless of what anyone said or did.
Right. Because
And
it's crucial right now. Yeah.
yeah,
And
and
you've said
yeah,
this to me a lot. I know this now. The more I talk about this, the more I wouldn't say rewarded, but the more that's being shared with me, right? Because
yes,
they don't
yeah,
want to just give it. They don't want to just share it with us so that it sits stagnant. It's to be shared. That's part of the peacemaker thing. When we speak with them, we give them our 2 cents, and we give them hope, right? We give them love. Is like, oh, maybe not all humans are turds, you know what I mean? Or like,
Yeah.
and they give us like, we bring back the information we get from them. And so it's super important to share this stuff right now. And when I was on Being Human Now earlier this week with Lynn Monet, I had never really like had a connection with like the elemental or the face side, right? And I know people that have, and I think it's awesome. It's just never really been something of mine to experience. But listening to her talk about it, it makes so much sense, right? There's these beings on the Fae, like night Fae, and then there's like elementals that work with like the trees and the grass and flowers and everything. And then there's ones that work below ground with like the soil and the rocks, and there's all these helpers on all these different layers of reality, right? Things that we don't see or that we're just not aware of. It's happening everywhere. So the peacemaker thing is bringing all this information and understanding and knowledge to people and sharing it with us because it's important right now.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're given information, you're given information to share.
Right.
There are things that you're given that are for you specifically. But
Right. Oh,
if
yeah, yeah,
they're
right.
giving you information that should be shared, then if you don't share that, then they won't. It's,
Yeah.
you have to be willing to speak out and take this information that they've given it. And I've said many times, I could totally be on Facebook or YouTube. I could be happy here. My life won't change a huge amount. I'm still going to have the interaction I have and all of that, but I know where I need to be to share.
Right.
And that's the only reason that I'm on social media, is to share and to connect
Yeah. Same.
with people,
Same. Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
important.
It's very important. And I was on I always ask too when I'm shared things, I ask, is this something I should share or should I
Mhm.
keep this to myself, right? And sometimes I'm told like not yet, right?
Yes.
So when I was on the show with you guys a couple months ago, I said, like everybody has a piece of the puzzle, and my part of the puzzle wasn't really working with the set. Like I said, that's not my part of the puzzle, right? It's not working with the Sasquatch people and sharing with them. And I mean, like almost immediately after that show, I was like, nope, that's not true. And now, so I need to retract that statement. It's really important. What I was trying to say at that was like that's not the only thing I'm doing, right? I'm not
Right.
only here to work with the Sasquatch people
Right.
and share with them. I'm sharing other stuff too. What I interact with them and have my experiences with them is really important to share with people because there's other people that are having similar experiences, and those experiences were so beneficial to me when I was coming up in this because I was experiencing a lot of weird stuff and I didn't
Yeah.
understand it, and hearing other people experiencing these things uh it was really helpful. So yeah, I was basically told to that's not true, so I take that back. I am definitely here to share my experiences also. Yeah.
Well, I'm certainly glad you got the memo. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
that's a good point. You got a lot to say, and all of it's
Mm,
pretty good. So we
yeah.
were talking about this before you came on about whether we should have two shows or have you on again, or whether you wanted to go super long. Well, we're over 2 hours. We're just 2 hours now. If you want to go super long, or would you like to come back another time, or what are you feeling about that?
I don't know. We can. I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know about you. If there's anything you guys need to say, I feel like we did a pretty good job of getting the information
Covered
out.
a lot of ground,
Yeah,
a lot of good jewels.
yeah. That's good because what usually happens to me is I'll do a show and then sometime tomorrow stuff will come back to me or stuff will come to me that a little explanation or I need to expand on something. Because I have to explain the stuff. So all of this stuff comes in like going back to the knowing. it's not explained to me in words. This stuff just comes to me, right? It's like this information packet, and it's like a zip drive of just, man, it is just packed full of information. And I have to like funnel it down into third dimensional English language, right? And there's a lot lost. There's a lot of stuff that's trimmed away. So uh when I talk about this stuff, there are some things that are left out because there's just not words that can explain it properly, or it doesn't. I have to speak about it in a vague manner so that it kind of encompasses a lot of different people's perspectives, and it fits through like a perceptive lens. Anyways, all that to say, like, there's a lot of information that's being unpacked. Um, so I don't really know if like some of it might fall short, and I'll need to expand on a little bit of something else later on. But that probably won't come to me until like tomorrow. So we can do another show. It'd probably be best.
All right. And so, Miss Arla, maybe you could do a little farewell wrap up. I have nothing left to say. I'm like an empty shell. I'm a husk.
This has been wonderful. As I said earlier, the conversations, that's something that's so important. And I know both of you know, and I know many of you listening know that whether you're listening to something like this or you're actually in the throes of it, that these little things come to you. These little thoughts come to you about something, and it might not even be what we're talking about at the moment. And that's an important thing too. I feel so blessed to have Mike and for him to uh, be not only the looks but the brains of this. Well, that
Right.
it's just so special for me to be a part of this. And to you, Sam, I mean, you're so special to me in so many ways. And I thank you so much for coming back and opening up. And there's still, I know, so much more you've got to say. And I'm up for having you anytime that you say, hey, I've got some stuff I need to bring forth, that you come and do this.
Okay.
So thank you all for being with us today. If you only caught part of it, you had to leave, Michael Harrell will have it on his YouTube channel, Michael Harrell. And there you've got it for posterity. You can
Yeah.
go and listen. And this is going to be one of those shows where you're going to need to listen multiple times,
Right.
because there are going to be bits of information that come each time you
Yeah.
listen to it.
Yeah.
So many blessings to you all. Thank you again for being here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Love you all, and just try to take it easy on yourself as much as possible and everyone else right now. Then just love each other, and yeah, let's be constructive.
That's it. Sayonara from the Pork and Bean Show.
Bye.
Bye.